Now, the global community must come together to intervene in the war between Israel and Palestine, so says Amnesty International South Africa. Spokesperson for Amnesty International South Africa, Genevieve Quintal, joins me now to talk more about this. And Genevieve, I appreciate your time. A very warm good morning to you. When we talk about the global community's intervention and cooperation, what does it look like ideally? I mean, what exactly should be everyone's role?
Good morning, Tumelo. Thank you so much for having me. Firstly, I think what we need to make clear, and what we've been making clear since violence broke out at the weekend, is that civilians are being the hardest hit. And so our call is to the international community to take all necessary measures to ensure that the human rights of Palestinians and Israelis are fully protected, that they are guaranteed justice and reparation for victims. Like I said, it's the civilians who are the biggest victims here. And that role by the international community means putting pressure on both sides to stop the violence and attacks and to stop the escalation of violence and attacks, and not to feed the beast, as you would say, but to really call on them to really to cease the violence and the attacks. And that's been our main call. Our main focus is international humanitarian law.
Yeah, and also, I mean, when it comes to those calls for humanitarian, law and aid to be, welcomed, what does it look like right now? What's the dire situation looking like in terms of the need on the ground by those civilians directly impacted?
So first, we're very concerned by the collective punishment which we are seeing. And the fact that, food, water, electricity is being cut off, especially to the people of Gaza. The collective punishment is a war crime. The use of starvation as a weapon of war is also a war crime. And the international community must denounce these abhorrent calls in the strongest possible terms. I mean, even just calling people animals goes against humanitarian law. These are people we're talking about. These are human beings. So as much as we're calling on the Israeli authorities, we're also calling on the Palestinian armed groups to strictly abide by humanitarian law. They must ensure humanity in the conduct of hostilities. They need to also, we know that we've heard that there's been hostages taken. They also need to be treated humanely. Both sides need to follow international law, and both sides, with their conduct, are perpetrating war crimes. And really this needs to be denounced by everyone. We cannot feed the beast.
And I'm sure you've been also following through with perhaps, one camp taking a side, the other taking a different side. Is this the time for taking any side at all, given the severity of the situation on the ground?
Well, Tumelo, it's not about taking sides. It's about what's right in terms of international law. We also need to look at the root causes of these repeated cycles of violence, and that also needs to be addressed with urgency. In 2021, the International Criminal Court opened an investigation into the situation in the state of Palestine. Its mandate was included to look at the crimes under international law committed by all parties involved in the fighting, as well as the crime against humanity of apartheid against Palestinians. And so we're calling on the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to expedite the progress in this investigation and to conclude its investigations, but also to include the recent crimes committed by all parties. There needs to be international justice, and that is going to come from the International Criminal Court. Yes, we know international justice has in the past also failed people, but we need to ensure that institutions like the ICC are strengthened so that we see international justice, not only for the situation in Palestine, but for other situations around the world.
Yeah. Also, I mean, in situations like this, whereby there is, civilians, obviously, whose lives in their thousands are impacted, the role of NGOs cannot be ignored. Genevieve, let's talk about that for a moment here in terms of how significant they are during this time, and obviously being allowed, the platform to assist where they can.
Absolutely. We've got your NGOs who provide humanitarian support, provide food and services, medical services. They need to be allowed to do their work. And then you have NGOs such as Amnesty International, research-based NGOs who collect evidence, who look at what's going on. We all are playing a watchdog role, and we need to continue playing that watchdog role, and we need to continue calling for violence and the escalation of violence to stop. This isn't about taking sides. NGOs need to be free to do their work. They shouldn't be targeted. We did see, I think I saw yesterday that some UN workers had also been killed while in Gaza. NGOs, humanitarian workers need to be allowed to do their work. It's providing a service, and that is part of international humanitarian law. People have a right to those certain services. It's a war crime, as I said, to deny people those services.
And we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Genevieve, for speaking to me about this. Amnesty International South Africa spokesperson, Genevieve Quintal, thank you so much for your time. Watch on eNCA.